What's up guys, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the Canon EOS R5. Everyone seems to be talking about it right now. It's a really incredible camera if it comes out with all the specs everyone's talking about. So I'm actually going to give you 10 things you should know about this camera and 10 things to look out for whenever it does come out and why you should get it if you are a videographer or a photographer. I mean, it might be a little pricey, but the specs are literally outrageous. So the first thing I'm going to talk about with the Canon EOS R5, I'm just going to jump right into it, is the 8K 30 frames a second. Not only is it going to shoot 8K 30 frames a second, it's going to do that in RAW, C-Log, which is Canon's version of RAW. That is literally, in my opinion, for a camera that is the size of the EOS R, that's outrageous. That's a very powerful camera. You know what everybody's talking about is it gonna have a time limit, like a 10-minute time limit? Nobody knows what the time limit might be, but if it don't have a time limit, maybe if the time limit is 30 minutes, that's gonna be ridiculous. But with 8K 30 frames a second, you're probably not gonna be able to put a memory card in there big enough that's gonna last 30 minutes. 8K is a huge resolution, 30 frames a second log, C-Log, that's gonna be huge. So, I mean, the time limit, hopefully, is the time limit of your memory card. So that is the first thing I want to talk about. I want to get that right out the way, is the 8K 30 frames a second. They say it's going to be able to do that without no crop factor in the lens, which that's going to be incredible. No crop is ridiculous. That means it might have heating problems, but I doubt it. I mean, I don't think they would release anything that's going to overheat, but who knows? I mean, nobody knows until we see it come out. But that's the first thing, is 8K, 30 frames a second, RAW, no crop, and it is supposed to have the autofocus, the dual pixel autofocus, all that. So that is really incredible. Okay, so the second thing you should know about this camera is it's gonna have a newly developed CMOS sensor, which is a sensor that hasn't came out yet. It's a new sensor that they developed for this camera. I really don't know much about it. All I know is it's going to be a new sensor, it's going to be full frame, and it's going to shoot 8K. Nobody really knows the megapixel count of this sensor, but people are speculating that it's going to be a 44 megapixel sensor. Hopefully it is, because that'd be a really good sensor. So with saying that, let's get into the third thing about this camera. This is one thing that I'm really pumped and excited about, which is it's going to shoot 4K 60 frames a second. With the job that I have, we shoot everything in 4K 60. We actually use Blackmagic cameras. We use the Blackmagic 4K mini cameras, and they're phenomenal because they shoot 4K 60 RAW and they shoot ProRes, which is really phenomenal. So if this camera comes out and it shoots 4K 60 with a 30-minute time limit, that'd be phenomenal, because 30 minutes is a long time. You could just hit record again if it can handle it and not overheat, and if you have enough data or storage in your SD card or the other card, the CFast card, I think it's called. But 4K 60 is going to be really nice. It's also going to do that in C-Log, which is their version of RAW. So it'll match up with the Blackmagics very nicely. You put it in the computer, you color grade it the same color grade you do the Blackmagics, and we have another camera on set for whatever price they release it, which is really nice, because this camera is going to shoot the same resolution, same frame rates and everything, but it's going to be in a smaller form factor. The Blackmagics we have are really big. We have shoulder mounts, we hold it. It's great, they're awesome, they're amazing cameras, but this camera is going to be the size of the Canon EOS R, a mirrorless camera, and it's going to shoot 4K 60 frames a second. You can get some amazing footage with that, and you can color grade it in post. It's amazing. 4K 60, just phenomenal. Everybody's gonna love that if it can do it with no time limit, and it doesn't have any crop either. Just so you know, there is no crop in the 4K 60. So they say on their website. Canon says it on their website, no crop. So with saying that, we're gonna get into the fourth thing, which is actually 4K 120 frames a second. I know you're probably thinking I should have put that together with 60, but 120 frames a second we would use for slow motion. Let me explain to you how we would use it. We would zoom up with the lens, whatever we have, as close as we can on a bass or any type of fish that's about to jump out of water, have it in 4K 120, and then in post we can slow it down and see that fish jump in slow motion and see the water come off of it. It'll be buttery smooth, it'll be real crispy, and it'll just look really good. And it's gonna be C-Log, where you can color grade it. exactly any way you want and make it look to your liking. So 4K 120, oh my God, we really can't wait for that. That's gonna be phenomenal. These Blackmagics that we shoot with does 1080 120 in ProRes, but not 4K 120. So this is actually gonna have a little advantage on the Blackmagics that we shoot with, and it's gonna be smaller, and it's gonna fit on my Ronin gimbal that I have, the small one, like, you know, not the small one, but it's smaller than the big one that you carry around. It's the one that you could hold in one hand and you can get all this footage because it's the same size as the Canon EOS R, which I use that Ronin with my Canon EOS R all the time, which is phenomenal. It's a great gimbal. So 4K 120, I can't wait for it. You guys should be excited about it. And even if you plan on not buying this camera, just wait until you see some of the footage that comes from this camera, if Canon specs are what they say they are. Obviously, the footage is gonna be phenomenal because they already said all these specs that I'm telling you are true. We just gotta know about overheating, the time limits that it might have, and really, I'm trying to think of anything else. And we know it don't crop on anything. So yeah, that's really it, is overheating and the time limits. If it don't have time limits or if it don't overheat, this is literally gonna be the freaking ultimate camera that everybody's gonna want. It's gonna be, I'm sure it's gonna be like $3,500 to $3,800. I don't know if it'd be 38, but it might be $3,500, which is a lot of money, but if you look at the spec sheet, it's gonna be worth it. It might be on the Netflix approved list. You could shoot a freaking Netflix series with it. Who knows, it's crazy. I mean, you can do a lot with this camera if these specs hold up to what they say they do, and I'm sure they will. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes Canon likes to put boundaries and limits on things. So we'll see whenever it comes out. But if it does, I bet you it'll be on the Netflix approved sheet within a few months after it's released. So the fifth thing I want to talk about is the dual card slots. Whenever it comes out, it's going to be able to take a regular SD card slot, the regular ones like this, SanDisk, and then it's also going to take the CFast card slot. I think it's called a CFast. That's what they're called on the Blackmagics. But it's going to have two slots, CFast and regular. And I almost guarantee it, for the 4K 30, you're going to be able to use a regular SD, probably not in C-Log. You're probably going to need the CFast cards, I think I'm saying that right, for anything log, C-Log, I guarantee it. I could be wrong, but I do know it's going to have two card slots, and one of them is going to be probably for all the RAW, and one is going to be if you want to shoot just regular Kodak, you know. But I could be wrong about that, but I do know it's going to have dual card slots, which is pretty cool. So you're going to be able to have options. So the sixth thing I want to talk about, a lot of people I see are not talking about this because it's probably, you know, you just think it's going to have it because it's going to be a professional camera, but I'm going to say it in this video, is it's going to, from the picture Canon released, it's going to have audio jack for your microphone, and it's also going to have a headphone jack. From the picture they released, you can tell it has a little slot, the door, but my Canon EOS R has it, and why wouldn't the R5? I mean, it looks exactly the side of the camera on the picture that they have on their website. It looks exactly like the Canon EOS R, maybe a little thicker. I almost guarantee you it's gonna have a headphone jack, and it's also gonna have a microphone jack. I mean, my goodness, why wouldn't it? What I would like to see is it have right and left microphones, so you can do two microphones at once instead of just one, or getting an adapter like I have where you can do right and left to get two lapel microphones. That would be cool if they had that already without getting an adapter. Okay, so the seventh thing I want to talk about with this camera is, which everybody's gonna love, it's freaking crazy. It's gonna have 5-axis image stabilization that's gonna work in conjunction with your lens, which means it's gonna have in-body image stabilization. And you know, if you have a lens, I just packed all my lenses up because I'm about to go shoot tomorrow. It's gonna be social distancing shooting. It's gonna be me and one other guy that's been in our house for 5 weeks. We're gonna be on a boat 6 feet apart. It's okay, not gonna be a big production. Anyways, so yeah, it's gonna have 5-axis in-body image stabilization that works in conjunction with your lens. So your lens has image stabilization, and so does the camera. So it's gonna be able to work together to make it really, really buttery smooth. So that's gonna be phenomenal. That's the seventh thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, because it's crazy. So I'm sure you noticed on all 7 things that I've mentioned so far about this camera, I've only mentioned video specs because that's what I do, is video. I love video. Pictures, I really don't care about it that much. I take pictures of my daughters whenever I can or whenever I get the chance. But video is what I do, that's what I'm interested in. But this next thing I'm going to talk about is about photos, and this camera is going to be able to take 20 frames a second pictures, which is crazy. That's a lot. They say when you're shooting sports photography, shooting 5 to 7 frames a second is pretty quick. This one's going to be able to shoot 20 frames a second digitally, and I think 12 frames a second mechanically. Okay, so I looked it up to make sure I got my facts straight. It shoots 20 frames silent and 12 frames mechanically. So that is the spec on that, which for pictures, that's really, really fast. So it's definitely going to be able to shoot some pictures really fast if you're into sports photography. Okay, so the ninth thing I wanted to talk about is actually the dual pixel autofocus. It's going to be able to autofocus on humans' faces as well as objects, which are animals. So if you're a bird watcher and you like to shoot birds, you can put a huge lens on there and you can just snap away and it will focus on that animal, supposedly what Canon says. So if it does that, that's really cool as well. Supposedly, I mean, this is crazy. This camera is supposed to be like the do-all, literally. It's gonna do everything. It's crazy. So, I mean, so if it has that too, that's just phenomenal. Dual autofocus for, you know, obviously face detection, eye detection, and then also for animals too, objects. That's really cool. Just because with what's going on in the world right now. I mean, production, I think when it does come out too, it's gonna be very limited supply because they had to shut down some factories and all that. I read all that today. I mean, they shut down a lot of stuff. So when it is released, I think it's gonna be a limited supply. So if you are looking to get one of these cameras, you better jump on it fast. So with saying that, I mean, for video shooters that are in the profession of shooting video, so if this camera has all these specs like Canon says it does, which it's on their website, it has to have all these specs. We just have to worry about if it's gonna perform, not overheat. It's gonna really outperform the Sony cameras. The Sony Venice, I think is how you pronounce it. It's gonna be competing with a lot of cinema cameras, like the Black Magics that we use to shoot our show. It's gonna be like up there. And what's cool is the price I hear on a lot of threads is it's not gonna be over $4,000, which that's pretty cool. I mean, it's gonna be priced pretty high, but it's not gonna be over $4,000, which a lot of these Black Magic cameras are hitting that $4,000 mark. And it's gonna have bigger specs if it don't overheat. That's one thing that I wanna see because it's a small camera and the CPU in that thing is gonna get hot. But we'll see when it comes out. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're interested in seeing more of my channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.